Okay, it's just gone 9, so we will get things underway. If someone wouldn't mind just letting our colleagues in through the lobby when you see the little names pop, that would be awesome. Thank you very much.
Got that, Nicole.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday and welcome to the June edition of the QGEA Download. We're very glad you could spend some time with us this morning. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the lands which we are gathering from today, or I'm dialing in from Quandamooka country. So a warm hello on this cold morning. And I also pay my respects to elders past and emerging. And yeah, so welcome everyone to the QGA Download. What we'll be looking at today is we've got a couple of guest speakers today. We have had a little bit of a structure shuffle around over at the QGCDG, and the official broader title of the team which the QGA unit sits within is an investment assurance and architecture. So we'll be introducing you to Vanessa Douglas-Savage. If you haven't already met her, Vanessa will pop on to show us her lovely face, say hello, and also walk us through the digital investment governance framework. Now, there was a little bit of a webinar on this yesterday, so if you were at that, you would have seen some of the goodies that are in store with the DIGF, but if you weren't, you get a bit of a sneak peek into it today. And finally, we'll be talking about the QGEA Refresh program, and that will be from Sanjana Matheson, who is our Manager of Policy within QGEA. But what I'll do now is call out to Vanessa. Are you there, Vanessa? Let me just see. Vanessa. Well, I'll put Vanessa's profile on and then see if I can find her in our lovely group of folk here.
She's not in yet, Nicole.
I see. Let me see if I can get Vanessa for you. Now, if I can't get her in a couple of minutes, what we will do is just shuffle the agenda. We can be flexible, we can be agile. Just bear with me one moment. That's okay. What we might do is, Sanjana, are you around?
Yes, I am around.
We might just have to skip to you just until Vanessa gets here. So give me a moment. I'll cycle through our slides. Oh, one moment, my scrolly has disappeared. Bear with me. There's your sneak peek. We'll come back to those when Vanessa's joined us. But what we will do for now is we will hop straight to our QGEA Refresh program topic. So as you know, we have been working through making the QGEA better, more contemporary, more collaborative with yourselves. And we actually do have a refresh program in place that Sanjana is looking after. She's been doing all the planning with the policy team. So Sanjana, if you'd like to come online and take us through an update on the QGEA Refresh program.
Thanks, Nicole. Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk to you about the QGEA Refresh program and give you a bit of an overview what that is and what it means and what work we'll be doing in the QGEA. So, Nicole, thank you. So I'm very excited to talk about this program of work because it is going to have a lot of value add to the agencies as well, because it's all about refreshing the content that is in the QGEA at the moment. So first of all, I would like to thank you, all of you, for providing the feedback in the past in different forums through this and to us, when we talk to you about how to get the documents that is in QGEA more current and useful. So as you can see on the screen, and you can read it, there are 3 broad themes of the feedback that you have provided, and they're grouped into, their the idea of it is to group them in these three groups. And the first part of the theme is the bespoke nature of the current QGEA document, which is it's all about us, QGEA, creating the documents over time and building on those documents. And there's layers and layers of documents. So that's the part of the document which has created a huge number of documents in different areas. So what we're trying to do with that was the feedback that we received, is we are now moving towards using the industry standards and frameworks to base our QGEA documents on those, because it's easy for us to maintain standards, as all of you know, that is best practice. It's being used by industries. It's being consulted at agency, government level, and it is regularly updated. So that is a less reliance on single author updating those documents. The second broad theme is about the strategic value of the QGEA documents. So this is all about how the documents are organized, ability for the users to use it, and to navigate those documents and find it in the current structure. So this was the feedback, how if somebody's looking for a document easily for their business need and go and search and find it. So what we're doing in this area, we are looking at how we organize the documents, and I'm going to talk more about this in the second slide, but it's now we are organizing in different policy topic areas to reflect the QGEA strategic focus areas in this space. So I'll talk about it in the next slide. The third big theme that came out was the large legacy and historical content. This is more about those documents that are sort of knowledge base. We don't really need it now or use it, but it could be useful. So, it's not something that, you kind of regularly use it for the current business needs, but they're sitting there, and sometimes it has become a burden for agencies, and that's the feedback we received for complying with this for the audit purposes. So we're trying to see which one of them are no longer needed and putting them into a knowledge base or a digital tools, we call it, a library, which is sitting there. So Nicole, can I have the next slide? So if this slide is basically what the second theme I was talking about, it is, if we can look at this graph, there's a lot of written documents, but if we can look at this diagram as a digital daisy. So basically what you see is the topic areas in the middle, and around it is the petals, if you say that, so those petals are basically the policy topic areas. So if you can see, if you look at in that sense, or you can say it's looking it through the lenses. So if you look at the digital leadership, it overlaps with the digital capability, but it still have its own distinct policy topic area in that space. And what it does is helps to structure the QGEA documents, which is sort of floating here and there into this distinct sort of groups or lenses. So if you're going, coming to QGEA framework and looking for those documents, you can very easily navigate that. So what I'm saying is that if you're looking for AI, you go into those page, you can look at it, say, I'm looking for all the documents related to AI, and you can say in there, you can see that it gives a description what this is about. The landing page tells you this is about this, and then you can go. So it helps the user to be very focused in this space. And also in that space is also the standard integration. It also helps to know which standards in terms of the different topic areas align with those policy topic as well. So in those areas will be all the documents, which we call it policy instruments, will be sitting, and they will overlap as well. The other thing with this diagram, it does help, is to help to provide information of how agencies can engage with QGCDGs services such as assurances, AI, security, enterprise architecture as well. And also it gives the policy instruments its home in terms of in that level of I guess effectiveness in terms of saying, is it relevant in this topic area, this policy instrument now? So it could be a policy, or it could be a standard, or in terms of a framework or a guideline, neatly putting them in there, and then looking at holistically in terms of the standard and how it's kind of organizationally fit in that policy topic area and what it really means. Oh, thanks, Nicole. So this slide, you can see is that we have got, I think that was the first part of the theme that was in there, that we have a large quantity of QGEA documents. And as you can see, that number sort of increases and sometimes decreases as well, depending on what other documents sort of, revised and replaced. So in here, we have priority for us is to tidy up the mandated documents fairly quickly, because that is sort of compliance, which is the policies and those frameworks that are attached to those policies, and some principles that are floating around as well. And we have got almost there's quite a lot of percentage of mandated documents, and the rest of them is other policy instruments like guidelines and stuff. So we're not going to talk about the alignment to the standards. That is basically what's happening. And we have started to engage with the policy leads in different areas, and we have commenced the work. So this slide is basically telling you guys that if we haven't approached some of the policy leads will be coming, and those policy leads are those topic areas that we were showing in the Digital Daisy slide before. So that's, if I can use as an example, for example, in cybersecurity, there is a standard and there is an organizational sort of policy structure in terms of how all the documents sort of fit within that standard. So these are the other areas like information management that is also tidying up all the documents that sort of tidy up with the standards in there. So what we're doing here is bringing the documents up to date. So when we say bringing them up to date, it's basically looking at those documents and seeing where they could be located, or whether they need to be revised, whether they need to be reviewed. In terms of revised means, do they need to change the scope of it? Do they align with the current government needs, business needs and requirements? Are they important at the moment? In all of them. So in doing that, we look at the assessment of how we make those decisions, whether they go into the remove, we call it bucket, repeal documents, or they are actually going and sit into a different reference tool, which is like QGEA Digital Tools and Resources Collection. So that in making those decisions, we look at a number of assessment criteria. Do we have an author? Do we really need a document? That document as well, like there's a multiple guideline on one piece of document, on one policy. Do we have when was it last updated? Some of them hasn't been updated, say 10 years plus. So, and also the most important part in that is the usability as well. Are we using those documents as well? So there's a number of things, and please note, we're not just shoveling things around and moving things around. We have a justified rationale in terms of how we are making those assessments and moving them, and then going back to the policy leads and checking that if these documents is still relevant to the business needs and tidying those documents up. So there's a lot of work in this space, and we actually have project, as Nicole, we actually have a project plan, and we are making these decisions with assessment criteria that we have, and we are checking with that. So there's a lot of work happening in this space, and in terms of tidying up to align with the digital DAISY, the diagram that we were showing. So there's quite a lot in this space. Okay, so just following on from the the last slide, if I can quickly jump into the 4Gov update. So when we're doing all of this, one of the next, what's coming next, we will be updating that QGEA page in terms of how they will look like, new tags and menus, and how there's also repeal documents, which was in there before, like 6 documents are now nominated to be repealed in terms of they superseded, and we will let you know provide those information as well, what those documents are, and those documents, and there's other documents, we're calling it retire, that goes to the digital and resources library. So, and the 4Gov update will be basically looking at the website and tidying them up in a sort of a user-friendly, for ways of navigating this. So we'll be able to build a QGEA policy library that helps the user to come into the QGEA framework and navigate different topic areas, go to the landing page, read about it, search for the documents you need, and tidy them up. So one of the key outcomes we would like to achieve to make the framework contemporary. That's why we're doing the refresh, to make it modernized, to make it current, to make it relevant, and to make it reliable. So these are the key components in terms of the policy management framework and in developing the policy, so that it will help us why we're making a policy, what's the need of it, how we're consulting it, how we keep it updated, the whole QGEA framework, so it's useful for all of us in terms of how it's applying at the agency level. So the next, so that's the part that's happening. So it will be very interesting part in there. That's the important part of the whole project. So while we're doing that, at the same time, concurrently, as we are still working on the current consultation. So there's a 2-part, just want to explain it. We're not just moving it from there to, doing the work we're doing on the side, that we're working with the refresh program. We are also constantly doing the current process as well. The current consultation is ongoing. So, you can refer to the 4Gov for details. You can subscribe there to receive notifications. Part of the refresh activities, which has always been happening as well, but now with the planned consultation in terms of the PAC 3, PAC 4, we approaching. We have commenced with information management in the area and asking what are they planned for PAC 4 consultation and PAC 3, and also cybersecurity as well. So those areas, and there's digital services as well in terms of what they're planning to review for the coming PAC 3 and PAC 4. In terms of the plan core design work that's happening, we are planning to run a collaboration sprint in the second half of the year. So we're quite busy in that space as well, which will be about the 3 topic areas, as you can see: QGEA meta model, application and classification framework, and business service classification framework. So I just want to sum it up with the whole idea, if you can get anything out of these framework program, that refresh work we're doing, the idea is to promote a QGEA framework that is useful for our stakeholders, and that is you, and for us to maintain it in a way that is, looking at, contemporary framework, and it's refresh, it's current, it's reliable, it's business focused, it is informed to help make those decisions when you're going at the agency levels and having the discussions at the executive levels. You can look at these documents and help you in the ICT, space as well. So, and there are a number of initiatives that will be emerging as well in terms of how we tidy up into policy writing, what that will be. And so don't want to go too much into it at the moment, but this is just to give you a big overview in terms of the work that we're doing based on the feedback you have provided, and which has been very helpful, and really appreciate the feedback we have provided. We just want to say we're using your feedback, and we are doing something about it. And the idea is that will help us to create this QGEA framework that will be helpful for all of us. Thank you so much. Any more? Nicole, I think you've come in. I should stop talking now.
Oh, no, that's all good. Thank you so much, Sanjana. We do have a few minutes for questions, but what I'll do is just quickly summarize what's been popping up in the chat just for you, Sanjana, because you probably can't see that while you're presenting, and also for the purposes of our recording for those catching up later. So we did have a comment on AI as one of the petals in the digital daisy. Would that be better classified under emerging technologies? Because AI is certainly the current flavor of the month. Things might come along, and that was just a comment from Darren. What we responded in chat is, yes, we expect the petals to grow over time as new things come available and are of interest. There will always be some topics that are essential to us running digital government, both from a customer service and running our business behind the scenes. But there will be some of these up and emerging topics like AI or robotics or whatever's going to come down the track next. So we expect those to come and go, because people will be going, what's the latest? They'll come, and at least it's up on a front page that they can easily get to it. So that was that little comment there. There was some conversation around using the existing classification frameworks. Yes, our policies where they are issued around particular framework topics are already classified against those. What we will do is take that comment and make sure you can still search by those as well as the topics. We're working on a tagging basis, so the technicalities of how these will be implemented on the pages in 4Gov is it's not necessarily a one page that has everything embedded as a list, but the idea that they're tagged and searchable. So someone did mention, can we roll these up onto different topics? The intent is yes. So you will have multiple ways to get to information based on what you're most comfortable with or what you're trying to communicate with your business users and your executive levels. There was one question I didn't respond to, Sanjana, which was just on the time frame of completion. That's come from Robin. So Robin, was that just for the rollout of the topics or the overall refresh?
The overall refresh.
Thanks, Robin.
Okay.
Sanjana?
Yes, thanks, Robin. We are working towards end of this year, which is Q4 2024, and we'll keep you all updated to achieve as much. We're aiming very high, so that is like 80% of our policy instruments to be revised, which is a lot of work going through and consult and working together with the subject matter experts and policy leads. And in terms of the 4Gov as update and how that look like, we also aiming to do that by the end of this year, which is our deliverable Q4 2024. And some other work that will be coming up will be sort of rolled out to 2025. So yes, we are trying to do all of these updates and tidying it up on 4Gov into by Q4 2024. If that helps, Robin.
Thanks,
Yes, thank you.
Sanjana. We do have a couple of other questions around, maybe putting all these topics together so that QChat can have a look at it and help people surface up information. I know that was a proof of concept that we've been looking at, so if we get any further news on that, we'll let the community know. And also someone has had a comment. Anurag, your hand was up earlier, so I'm hoping this was the question that you were going to ask, is that we do have some guidelines that are a bit long in the tooth. So when
Yes,
Sanjana, when Sanjana presented the treatment methods earlier, those, let me just go back to that slide for you. So bringing up to date, so aligning to standard and bringing up to date, we are absolutely targeting those older policies, making sure that we haven't got aging material there. If the topic is still relevant, but there is much more contemporary advice, and particularly if there's an international Australian standard available, we'll be applying those first two boxes to those as a priority. For some of those that are old and the topic's long gone, it was something of interest to us 10 years ago and is no longer applicable, you'll find that it moves into that remove space. Or if the advice is still good, but maybe a bit aged, but there's not much value in bringing it up to date, we'll just pop it in the reference area in case someone has a favorite tag on that document and still likes to refer to it, but it'll go into a reference more like historical of value information. So that's how we'll treat those older policies, Anurag. I think that was all the questions from chat, and we've got the lovely Vanessa with us. So thank you so much, Sanjana. If anyone's got some further questions, do get in touch with us. You know our mailbox. As usual, the recording and this slide deck will go on to Viva Engage afterwards, so you're welcome to post some comments there. But what I will do now is hand back, and I can get my scrolly bar to work, to the lovely Vanessa Douglas-Savage. Thanks, Vanessa.
Hey, thanks, Nicole, and everyone. My apologies for being a bit late. Look, it's lovely to see you all here. This is the first download that I've jumped in on. We just thought it would be nice just to give you some contact details as well as to give you a bit of an introduction to myself. So if we go back to January, Lance Oswald took up an opportunity to take on the acting CIO role across at DAF, and so I stepped in and I've picked up the architecture side of the team, alongside the investment and assurance functions that I've already looked after. Just a little bit of background about me, just because we're here. In a past life, I did work as an enterprise architect approximately a million years ago. So it's really lovely to come back and actually be part of this particular team. And over the current 6 months, as Sanjana has been talking to, we've been really focusing on how do we actually improve the QGEA at the same time as we're starting to build the new policies and so forth that we're looking at. I'm always here if you need to reach out and ask any questions. So you've got my email address here. The team will attest to the fact that sometimes I am not the most responsive, but I do endeavour to get back to you within a day or so. And we'd love to hear from you if you've got any really interesting and curly problems. The thing that makes my day the most interesting is when people bring complex and difficult issues forward to try and solve. So if you've got any of those, please don't hesitate to reach out. But the real thing that I'm here to talk about today is actually the Digital Investment Governance Framework. And I know, look, this is some people might think this is pretty dry for a Thursday morning, but I think it's pretty exciting. So over the last probably 18 months, we've been working on updating the digital investment guidelines that sit across government. And I'm really excited to say that with the help of the team and everyone involved, as well as many of the people on this call who've provided feedback, we've actually got to the point where it's actually been approved by Cabinet. And we've now published it on the QGEA website. Now, I also am aware that perhaps not everybody knows terribly much about digital investment, so we thought we'd give you a quick spray today. It'll be the best 10 minutes of your day, trust me. The Digital Investment Governance Framework is really one of three. Thank you for whoever laughed at that joke, I appreciate it. So the Digital Investment Governance Framework is one of three core policy instruments that help guide and improve the successfulness of our digital projects across government. So we have the Investment Governance Framework, which we started to chat about, but I just want to acknowledge it's also part of the Core and Common Policy Framework, which I know that everyone here is well across, and also tied into then how we deliver our projects and programs around the portfolio program and project management methodology. I can talk about all three of these for hours and hours at end, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to focus on the DGIF today. So why did we look at this space? And there's a couple of reasons here. One is simply we had an outstanding audit office action, and if anyone's ever been lucky enough to have one of those assigned to them, yeah, there's some pressure and some timeframes to get that completed. But the other reason we looked at the investment governance framework is that through the savings and debt process, we'd taken a step back from investing in digital. We'd taken a pause, and we'd really started to prioritise what we needed across the Queensland government to move forward effectively. One of the learnings out of that process was that it actually worked really well in terms of helping people understand what they need to do. But once we came out of savings and debt, the exception process no longer served us. It was taking too long, it wasn't flexible enough. And also, then we hadn't had any guidance further down the line. So our guidance was very much focused on can you start or not? And really what we're finding once we came out of savings and debt was that actually we needed to be focused on how do we support everyone as they move through the process, through planning, analysis, and into delivery. So the Digital Investment Governance Framework is our attempt to do all of these things. It has three main steps, the three main groups. We have, to start off with, a really explicit list of steps to follow when making a digital investment. And we've got two different views into here, one around projects and one around programs. We've also then in the middle got some what I'm calling digital direction guidance. And you'll have already seen some of this come out under the QGEA. For example, the digital directions document that we're trying to publish sort of between every 3 to 4 months, depending on priorities. And really importantly, a future pipeline of our digital investments to help us plan. And as enterprise architects, I'm sure all of you are interested in that side of things. Where can we actually leverage our core common policy? Where are we seeing investment being ramped up, and why are we spending so much in certain areas? That's the view that we're trying to get to there. And then, of course, we've got the standard reporting and tracking activities that we're interested in. So we're still interested in where different projects are up to, how we enable that in sharing across government. So we've incorporated the investment governance framework into the government, into the QGEA, along with there's some other bits that I haven't touched on here so much. We've got some principles in the updated framework. I like to also set this point, we always have principles because every good framework has principles, but hopefully you can see they align to the QGEA principles as well as the various other principles you will have in your own agencies. And we're also really explicit about how the framework will be governed, the role of the digital economy leaders subgroup and so forth. Probably the first, if not the first, definitely the second question we get asked when we talk about the investment governance framework is, okay, what's in scope? And one of the major changes that we've done here is we've actually asked agencies to register all the digital and ICT enabled investments. So once you know that you've got a program that is relying on digital or IT, we're asking them for that to be registered. Now that can be as simple as simply the name of the project, a single line description and a contact person. That is at its essence as simple as it can be. Over time, we'd obviously grow that view. But then we're saying we're differentiating between those investments that actually we're going to follow and we're going to shepherd through the DIGF, through DELS and with the Office of Assurance and Investment. Those investments that we're actually happy to keep running. We're still here for advice. I want to make that really clear. Just because something doesn't fall under the remit of the investment governance framework doesn't mean we're not going to help you with it. Just means that we're going to enable you to run that project at your pace within your agency without asking you to come through some of the formal processes you may be aware of. However, if you have got an investment that has CBRC funding, it does fall within the scope of the investment governance framework. If your assurance level profile is a 3 or a 4, it does fall within the scope. We've also then included any investments that exceed the Director General thresholds defined by the Project Commencement Approval Authority policy. And the reason we've tied it to this rather than a dollar figure is that we didn't want to create yet another arbitrary line that you needed, amount that needed to be met. Anyone here who's worked through the Governor and Council approval processes will know how frustrating it is that we have a $10 million ex-GST threshold that hasn't changed in 10 years. We didn't want to fall prey to that, so we tried to tie it to a different policy instead. And at the bottom, we've got this delightful catch-all, which is any investments that are deemed high risk. And they could be high risk because you say, actually, we want whole of government eyes on this thing. We want the digital economy leaders to be looking at it. We might deem it high risk because Treasury or DPC has referred it in. And also then there are some areas where QGCDG itself might say actually this is a high risk investment. Now, if we look on the right-hand side of this slide, you can see here, assurance level 1 or 2 projects, we're not going to explicitly check in and make sure that the investment governance framework is being followed. This doesn't mean that all of the standard policy program management practices shouldn't be followed. Doesn't mean you shouldn't still do your gated reviews and so forth. It's just acknowledging that the maturity across the sector means that we're recognising that's not where we're going to add the most value for agencies. We've also acknowledged that if we look at operational technology, so thinking things like scanners for your Go cards, there's quite a lot in health, for example. We don't believe that the digital economy leaders can offer real value in terms of helping review those unless you have particular questions. So operational technology for the purposes of this framework is excluded. And then in the middle there, we've got this one other category, replacement of an existing application or technology using a like-for-like service or deployment model. So we do acknowledge that sometimes you're going to have to replace something that's core to your operations, but you're basically just replacing something that's there with something, with a newer version of that thing, but it might exceed the Director General thresholds, for example. In those instances, we've included an exemption process where you can just let us know what you're doing, and we'll just run it up the tree here just to make sure everyone's comfortable with it. We're still really keen to know about those because there are some of the opportunities where we could really leverage core and common opportunities where we might be able to pull resources and so forth. But we also, again, recognise that there's perhaps not as much value to be added in asking DELS to look at those elements. So if we look at the investment governance framework, what's new? Look, I've touched on my principles are new. That digital direction guidance, so we've been sneakily getting that one in as we got the framework itself ready. The tracking of digital investments, the digital investment register, and the explicitness of how we're dealing with that, that's new. And also then we're going to put together some new tools, such as some frequently asked questions and so forth, just to be a little bit more modern in the approach that we take here. In terms of what changes, I've touched on the fact that we're asking you to register all initiatives. We've spelled out really explicitly the steps for projects and programs, and I'll run through those in the next slide. We've updated the role of the Digital Economy Leaders subgroup, and so that's the overarching governance group for digital investments across Queensland, and we've just clarified exactly the role that they're going to play there. The last one that I will just quickly touch on is we've now got the option to split our investment review into 2 activities, into procurement and investment review. Now, not everyone needs to take advantage of this and it won't work for every project. But one thing we have observed as we've taken on more projects that are multi-agency, that are looking to establish as core and commons, is that there's a point prior to the procurement process where we do want to have some consideration of how something might be leveraged across the sector. How we set that contract and how we run that process to ensure that it reflects all the different views. So for your larger projects, for the core and common projects, or for areas where we think they may turn into core and common down the track, we can do a review prior to procurement, and then we'll do an investment review later rather than combining the two together. Again, it's not compulsory. We're not saying it will work for everything. I honestly expect it'll be probably more at the high end or at the commodity stage, but we'll give it a run and we'll learn from the process as we move forward. What remains the same? So the assurance requirements and processes stay the same. The project and program management processes stay the same. We haven't made any changes to that space. And just really importantly, the relationship between OAI and the PMOs and initiatives, we're not looking to change the way that any of that happens, unless, of course, there's anyone who wants to change it. Like, we're open to that as well. So I said that I'd really quickly cover how we presented the investment governance framework. We've really deliberately taken the approach that you can see at the bottom of the slide here to describe for each step of the digital investment governance framework what happens, why it's important, what agencies need to do, and finally what QGCDG will be doing. So again, we're trying to be really transparent at each of these steps about what's going to occur. And similarly, If you find that you need to change what happens at one of these steps, say if your agency operates slightly differently, then we've got the opportunity to really dig in and highlight that straight away from the beginning. We've used the new digital design system to approach in terms of how we've laid out the investment governance framework on 4Gov. So you can see here it's very much tile-based. There is a PDF as well that you can download if you're interested. So if you're the sort of person that just wants to see it all in one spot, we've got that. But we've also just broken it up so you can just dig in and see exactly what you need to do. So if you're logged into a project, for example, and I always use the case of, imagine that the minister's just stood up and announced a new website's going to be built for a certain cohort. Never happens, right? You can jump straight into step 2 and start undertaking and analyze and plan. You can jump straight into looking at investment decision if that's what you need. So the framework has been designed to be really flexible. So if you have something come up late, we're not going to make you go all the way back to step 0. And in actuality, I think quite a lot of the initiatives that are going to come to us are going to appear at step 1. So they're going to be at the point where there's a project that's been stood up, there's been some work done, and we're really at the how do we pull together a business case stage. I can see Nicole's popped the link to the investment framework in the chat. Thank you so much, Nicole. So jump in. It is intended to be an evolving document over time. So we're not looking for this to be static. It is meant to be to change and flex in response to the needs of the sector. And of course, if you have any feedback, please jump in, let me know. Your contact details are at the front and you'll have the slides there. So more than happy to come out and chat to your teams about how to apply it, answer any questions, or even just if you go, actually, this is so broken, it's not going to work for me, happy to have that chat as well. I'm going to pause there because I'm right on time and hand back to Nicole. But look, it's lovely to meet you all. And if we can help, please let us know.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Any quick questions for Vanessa? Nothing's popped up in the chat, so you've smashed it, Vanessa.
It was late, but got all the content in.
Well, thank you so much, Vanessa and Sanjana, for presenting to us today. I hope that's given you some interesting topics to go away, have a look at, think about. We welcome feedback on both the DIGF as well as the proposed topic structure and what we're doing in the refresh. So please get in touch with us. If you've got any comments, any concerns, any ideas, we love to hear if you've got an innovative way of looking at things. And that really brings our download to a close for today. So last call, any comments? A link to the PDF document of all the DIGF. Yes, thanks, Robin. Vanessa, that's a link on the website. Is that right? If someone's on the DIGF website on 4Gov, there is a link there to download the whole thing.
I think as Lisa's just
it's coming soon, very soon.
Yeah, we tried to rush it through, and that's probably a guide not to do that. So yeah, Lisa working with the team to get that fixed as soon as possible. Robin.
Lisa. Thank you.
Robin, if it's urgent, reach out. We can flick you a copy.
I don't know. I've been digging around through all the documents, but I have a preference for all in one place.
Understand.
So we'll put a link to all of this in the post on Viva Engage. And yes, when that PDF one is available, we'll just add that as a comment to our discussion from today. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Have an awesome rest of the week, and we'll catch you at next month's download. Take care.
Thanks, Nicole.